Okay, this is my Wheeler and Wilson W9 treadle machine, and it's a great machine. It runs smooth. It makes a beautiful stitch, easy to operate. Just has a few things that make it a little less than ideal, and one is the needle. The needles that it takes are not made anymore. I happen to have a little supply of old ones that came with the attachment set that I bought for it, but they're not easy to find. Let me zoom in here. Okay, so anyway, they're not easy to find, but they do make a modern needle that are labeled MY1014B or SM1014B, and they work. They have, the difference is they have a round shank, so when you put it in here, the original needles have a flat side, and it helps you to know how to orient the needle, but with the round you have to sort of make sure you get it just right, but that's really not a problem. It's easy to do. So the needle problem is not a big deal because we can buy new needles for it. The other thing is that it's very hard to find the bobbins, and they're these small little, some people call it a bagel bobbin because they sort of look like they're kind of rounded on the edges, and it sort of looks maybe like a bagel. I've seen these go for $10, $15 a piece. Fortunately, when I bought my little box of tools, I ended up with some bobbins, and it makes it easier when you have a couple of extra. And the last thing is the feet. This is the straight stitch foot, and they're what's called a back clamping. Make it even closer here. Back clamping foot, which means that it attaches from the back. The presser bar back here has a slot in it, and the foot very tightly slides into that slot, and then there's a screw that goes in on the back and holds it in. That screw is sometimes hard to get in. And there you have it. It's a normal straight stitch foot. And for most things, that straight stitch foot works great. There are a bunch of other attachments that came with it, and they all attach the same way if you can figure out what they all do. I don't really have any intention of ever using all these things, but it's nice to have them. But what I like to do when I have a machine is I like to, of course, free motion quilt. There's not a foot for that. So what I found was, doing some research, that they, in the 50s, 1950 to be exact actually, somebody patented an adapter for this. The machine's a lot older, but apparently they finally got around to figuring it out in about 1950, that you could make an adapter that would fit, that could make the machine take standard side clamping feet like a Singer machine did. So here it is. And the way this works, that slot in the back holds this part, and this becomes the attachment for the feet. So this goes in. Again, it's kind of a tight fit, so you have to really kind of work it in there. And then our screw goes in the back. You have to have it lined up correctly. So there's that. Now, this acts as the presser bar would. So I can attach a Singer type side clamping foot to it. Makes sense? Now, the problem is, again, I wanted to use this for free motion quilting. So how do you do that? Well, free motion quilting feet are like this, but this is too wide to fit this. If you look at this, this is just not going to fit. I have several of these, and they're just barely too tight to fit. And I actually tried bending one of them, and it's just not working. You know, every different kind I try is the same problem. There's not enough space in there. So they make a different kind of quilting foot, and this one is for a high shank machine, and it's also a ruler foot, so it's thicker, and then you can quilt up against a ruler to make straight lines or curves or whatever shape your template is. Now this clamps on to, this is for a high, not for this machine, it's for a high shank machine. And when it clamps on, that groove allows you to raise or lower the foot. You see the groove there would allow you to, with the screw in, you could make it higher or lower so that it's just exactly the right height above the feed dogs to make your quilt, depending on how thick your quilt is, to make the quilt go through smoothly. So, and I've actually ordered one of these in the low shank version that will fit this machine. What I found in my collection of feet is this little foot. This one fits. The only thing I can't do is adjust the height of it. It's just a one size, one height adjustment. So I had to, I loosened up the pressure on the presser bar so that it has a good bit of play in it, and it seems to work fine. Now when the other foot comes, I'll probably have a little bit better luck with it. But let me just trying to get my zoom to work. Let me just show you how I'm going to quilt with this. So first thing is, I always like to use my Teflon quilting mat. It makes the quilt slide more smoothly. So that's how I'm going to start. I also have set my stitch length to 0, the shortest I can get it. I can't drop the feed dogs on this machine. It just isn't equipped to do that. But if you set the feed dogs to not really to a 0 stitch length, that's really all you need to do. And the other thing about this machine that I don't think I mentioned is that it threads backwards from what you're probably used to. It threads from right to left. Most machines thread from left to right. So it threads that way, and the wheel turns away from you instead of towards you. So you have to be aware of that when you start. If you try to stitch with it and it's not working, it's probably because you're turning it the wrong direction. So wheel away from you, and it does really nice stitches. It's a good, smooth operating machine. It's quiet. It's one that does not take a whole lot of effort with your feet to get the treadle operating properly. Really kind of amazing to me how much I'm enjoying using this machine. And well, because I got that adapter. Now the adapter's hard to find, but I found a place that he said he had 3 or 4 of them. I will include his contact information at the end of the video so that you can get in touch if you happen to have a Wheeler & Wilson W9 that you would like the adapter for. But as you can see, it really is doing a great job of free motion quilting. And let me once more zoom in to show you these stitches close up. I think they look pretty good. So I'm anxious to do a complete real quilt instead of just my little scribbly scrap thing here. And when I do one with this machine, I will certainly post a video showing the quilting process in more complete version. But I did want to show you the way the adapter works, because I think it's something that several people have this machine and and would not know that you could actually use it this way. So happy quilting.